Ooh, part 3. Acoustic panels on the ceiling with underwear. Welcome back to Tune Fart. I'm Aaron. And if you watch part 2, bass trap building, you'll know all about what happened to my underwear. How I got this nice little vent flap. Makes me feel more comfortable in the summer. I don't think my recently vent-holed underwear is going to be of particular use when talking about acoustic panels on the ceiling over your listening position. In Bobby Osinski's studio build video on lynda.com, he describes how to mount the acoustic panels over your listening position across your ceiling. That video describes how to find all the wood studs in your ceiling and then how to put eye hooks into those studs and then hang your acoustic panels with zip ties hanging down from each of those eye hooks. I've done that. I've done that twice. On the third time, I was starting to get pretty irritated. Number one, I ran into having a popcorn ceiling. Good luck using a stud finder across a popcorn ceiling. The reason is it doesn't like to slide across that bumpy texture. Well, I thought of a way around that. It didn't work. I put a piece of paper up against the ceiling, and I put the stud finder up against the piece of paper, and I dragged the piece of paper across all the popcorn crap. The results were iffy at best. I was having a heck of a time trying to find where to put those eye hooks in. I needed another solution. And if you move around, you're not sure how long you're going to be somewhere, this solution might work a little better for you. After you have it set up, it's a lot easier to take down, and it'll be a lot easier to adapt to a new location. What I did was I found the brackets that are used to hang up rods and closets for hanging your clothes on. Those brackets are pretty heavy-duty metal. They're good for supporting quite a bit of weight. You'll see in the video. And from those brackets, I hung up conduit, metal conduit. I figured out that where the ceiling meets the wall, up at the highest point on the wall, if you drill through that sheetrock, you're going to go right into wood because the top of that wall is wood. So you don't have to worry about finding a stud, at least in my experience. It worked out. The acoustic panels on the ceiling fit over the side panels on the walls for the listening position almost perfectly. After knowing where the front of the panel should be for the ceiling, I use a laser to mark a line across the ceiling. This Ryobi laser attaches to the ceiling with little push pins, or any wall for that matter. I found it at Home Depot, and it's been worth every penny. I think it was about 50 bucks. It's great for making everything uniform in a room. These are the pieces of wood I mount the brackets to for hanging the conduit. I use a slightly larger drill bit to do my own little kind of ghetto countersinking so the screw fits more flush up against that piece of wood. To make sure each bracket is the same height on the wall, I match it up to the edge of the wood. Gonna make a studio for you. I gonna make it really good. Learn it from Bobby on the internet. Hey, make the studio for you. Here's the mounted bracket. Notice I angled that bracket piece to make it easier to slide the conduit onto it. The conduit pieces weren't long enough to go all the way across the ceiling, so I had to buy a third conduit piece and use a coupler to lengthen each section. Do yourself a favor, and when you're cutting conduit, use a proper saw to do so. I started using a little crappy ghetto saw, and it took me a long time the first time. The completed conduit sections were easy to hang, and I was very pleased with the way they turned out. Here's one of the ceiling panels halfway through hanging. Notice I just hung two of the opposite corners with zip ties. After all the panels were hung up on the conduit started to sag, so much so that I had to add this support in the middle. And see all those little pink holes? Yeah, it took me a while to find a stud in the ceiling. The pink stuff is that spackle that will eventually turn white. It's a pain, but I eventually got it taken care of. The end result was great. I'm very pleased with this, and it's going to be very easy to duplicate. Learn it from Bobby on the internet.